You know, there's a battle that's been raging for over 100 years, and you've probably been a soldier in it without even realizing it. Okay, so have you ever been writing in Hebrew and you just pass? You're looking at a word like koach, and you're thinking, wait, does this need a vav in the middle or not? Well, that little moment of hesitation, that's not just you worrying about a typo. You've actually just stepped onto a historic battlefield.
Yeah, really. You've stumbled right into a century-old fight for the very soul of the Hebrew language. And trust me, this is about so much more than just grammar. We're talking passionate debates, cultural identity, a full-on war over what modern Hebrew should even look like.
So let's break it down. At the heart of this whole conflict are two totally different philosophies of spelling, and both of them have some seriously deep historical roots. On one side, you've got what's called deficient spelling, or kתיב קצר. Think of this as the biblical style, where you use fewer vowel letters. Then on the other side, you've got full spelling, כתיב מלא. This is way closer to the style of the Talmud, where they add in those vavs and yuds to help you out with pronunciation.
Now, if you go back to the turn of the 20th century, that deficient spelling camp, it was basically the Wild West, a total free-for-all with no consistent rules at all. That is, until one man stepped in to try and bring some order to the chaos.
His name was David Yellin, an educator who, back in 1904, introduced something he called grammatical spelling. His whole goal was to create a perfectly logical, rule-based system so you'd know exactly when to use vowel letters in vocalized text. And his method was, well, brilliantly precise. Yellin's system was actually inspired by how regular Arabic spelling is. The rule was pretty clear. If a vowel is historically long, it gets a vowel letter. If it's short, like the kind you see before a doubled consonant, it doesn't. Sounds simple enough in theory, right? But there was a huge catch.
And here it is. The system's greatest strength was also its fatal flaw. To actually use it, you needed an expert's knowledge of biblical grammar and all the vocalization rules. I mean, who knows that stuff? The average person? A new immigrant just trying to learn the language? Not a chance.
And that very practical problem is what officially kicked off the Great Spelling War. It all went down within the Language Committee, which was the forerunner to today's Academy of the Hebrew Language. So two camps formed. In one corner, you had the traditionalists supporting Yellin's rule-based approach. We're talking heavy hitters here, like Eliezer ben Yehuda and the poet Bialik. And in the other corner, you had the scholar Joseph Klausner, who was arguing for a much simpler, full spelling that modern everyday people could actually use. And listen, the stakes were incredibly high. This wasn't just some dusty academic debate. Ben Yehuda himself declared that spelling was nothing less than the image of God on the face of the language. For them, changing it was basically a desecration.
So this argument just raged on for decades. But then, in the early days of the State of Israel, the whole conflict reached this explosive new climax.
So let's look at the timeline. The state is founded in 1948. The Academy of the Hebrew Language gets established in 1953. There's this revolutionary spirit everywhere, right? And by 1962, the Academy was ready to make its most radical move yet. And I mean, radical. The committee proposed adding 2 brand new letters to the Hebrew alphabet. Yes, you heard me right. They wanted to create new characters to represent the A and E vowels, a change that hadn't been seen in millennia. The backlash from the public and from intellectuals was immediate and just brutal. Newspapers were horrified. Critics accused the Academy of creating chaos, of severing the connection to Jewish heritage. One critic even said it was like burning the Talmud. Wow.
Okay, so reeling from that absolute firestorm of outrage, the Academy backed away from its radical plan pretty quickly and started looking for a compromise.
And that turning point finally came in 1968. After nearly 70 years of fighting, the Academy issued a historic decision that was meant to define modern Hebrew spelling once and for all.
So what did they decide? Well, the Academy officially acknowledged that Hebrew actually has 2 valid systems. There's a vocalized system, which is the descendant of Yellin's rules, and an unvocalized, full spelling system. The war ended not with a victory for one side, but with a ceasefire.
And that 1968 truce? It basically established the reality that we all live in today, creating 2 parallel systems that we use for 2 totally different purposes. So here's how it works now.
Full spelling, the system that Klausner championed, has pretty much become the standard for everyday text without vowel points. Websites, newspapers, novels. Meanwhile, deficient spelling, Yellen's legacy, is what we use for texts that are vocalized, poetry, children's books, and the Bible itself.
So the next time you're writing and you hesitate over a word, just remember, you're not a bad speller. Your confusion was never your fault. It's basically a feature, not a bug, of Hebrew's long and complicated history.
So that's our explainer for today. The big thing to take away from all this is that language rules are never just rules. They're the battle scars of history. Which really makes you wonder, right? In an age of autocorrect and AI, is the great spelling war finally over? Or is a brand new chapter just beginning?